Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my second day of fasting, which was Tuesday. May. Oh, that's my dog. I have a dog. She's Mexican. She's a rescue and she's sweet. Her name is Chula, but she barks a lot because we back onto a park and she goes nuts. And I hear one of my kids yelling at her right now. So pardon me if you can hear all that noise in the background. So day 2 of my water fast was Tuesday, which was the 12th of May. And I woke up in the morning, as I mentioned on my last video. I woke up in the morning with quite a headache. It had been persisting all night, so I decided to take a Tylenol, and I felt much better by noon. I want to talk about the difference between the different types of lethargy that I personally feel. So I would describe the feeling that I had on Monday and that persisted through probably half of the day on Tuesday, maybe even into 3/4 of the day on Tuesday, as being like a heavy lethargy. So I was lethargic, but I was also like I was heavy. So the emotion was heavy, and it just felt kind of like I was really slow and I was dragging. My mind had clarity, but my body felt a very heavy sense of lethargy. By the end of the day, though, I just felt kind of like tired lethargic. Regular lethargic is what I might say. It wasn't such a heavy feeling of lethargy. I felt good. I felt sort of like, even though I was tired, there was a little bit of a bounce to my step. I know it's very difficult to explain, but you'll know it if you go through it, because you might sense the difference in the types of lethargic that we can, that you feel. I felt heavy lethargic at the beginning of the day, and by the end of the day, I felt more just sort of tired lethargic. Now, in my first video about prep, I talked about I don't remember what, like point 1 or point 2 or 3, as being don't make food for your family during the first couple of days. But actually by Tuesday night, I was feeling quite good. So I made food for my family. And people think that this is a very crazy thing that I do when I'm fasting. My family, most importantly, thinks it's crazy that I can be in the kitchen preparing food for them but not eating it. There's something about the black and white of fasting that really serves me well. It serves me increasingly well as the fast goes on, because you actually put your body into a dangerous position if you break your fasting correctly the longer you go. By day 2, I certainly could have eaten and it wouldn't have done my body any harm, but I didn't want to. And the thing about water fasting is that you are just having water. So I was preparing Mexican food for my family, and I couldn't eat it because it wasn't water. So it makes it very easy for me. I think that there are other people who perhaps feel tempted, but a lot of people who I speak with who fast say that it's the same thing for them. And in fact, the longer they go on, the more interested they become in cooking. When I did my 35-day fast, I became consumed with cooking shows. It's like all I watched on TV was cooking shows. And I would think about meals I was going to make, and I would make different and interesting food for my family. One of the challenges is I would have to have them taste tested as I was cooking for levels of spiciness and that sort of stuff. But anyway, that's something we got over. I think that part of what interests me about cooking is that I think our society is so much about meal times. It kind of provides structure to your day. And the first time I ever heard about this or kind of understood it was when my dad was sick in 2015. I remember he was in the hospital and he was on an IV. He was being fed through intravenous, and he said to me that it was a real challenge for him, because without breakfast, lunch, and dinner, his day had no structure. And I thought, oh, that's kind of weird. But since fasting, I totally get what he meant when he said that. If you don't have meals, you don't have structure to your day. There's nothing that sort of grounds you to those different times of the day. So when I'm fasting, that's something that I miss, because my family, we sit at the dinner table together every single night. And so when I can cook supper for my family, that allows me to be part of that experience. Now, I know not everyone feels this way, but it's something that helps me. Typically, the desire to be in the kitchen, I've never had it happen on day 2, so that was new. The advice I gave you guys was stay away from the kitchen for 2 days, but for me, by day 2, I was ready to be in the kitchen. So that was new and sort of interesting to me. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that in my last video, I talked briefly about distilled water and that distilled water is gross to me, which it is. And but I do want to comment that it is very pure. It's very good for you. I acknowledge that the water that I'm drinking from the tap has things, chemicals in it, and that when we're talking about cleansing our body, the idea, of course, is to keep the things that you're putting in it, the water that you're putting in it, as pure as possible. And I know that tap water is not the purest form of water, but for me, I have to do what makes sense. And if I'm going to be told that the only thing, or if I'm going to enforce on myself that the only thing I can have is distilled water, I'm not going to fast. So that's why I made the comment last time about drinking tap water or Evian or whatever it is that I buy from the store. Yeah, so I just want to acknowledge that certainly distilled water, I know, is much better for you. It's much cleaner for you. It doesn't have all of the chemicals and everything that our tap water does, but my tap water is delicious and distilled water is disgusting to me. So I would rather have that, and I'd rather fill my glass water bottle than be going and buying all the plastic. So that's kind of it for day 2. It was a great day. I felt very good by the end of the day. Like I said, had a little bounce to my step, made food for my family, and I remember going to bed feeling happy and looking forward to day 3, certainly. Okay, thank you.